He rose before the light even thought of touching the horizon. The sky was still soaked in midnight ink, and the desert lay wrapped in silence so deep it felt sacred. Inside the tent, Sarah breathed softly, her face calm in sleep. Isaac, too, was still curled beneath a woven blanket, his chest rising and falling with the steady rhythm of youth. Abraham sat motionless on the edge of his bedding, the cold of the earth pressing through the soles of his feet. He didn't shiver. He was too aware of the weight already crushing his chest. His heart didn't race, it simply sat there, heavy and unmoving, like a stone lowered into a well. The memory of the voice still rang in his ears, not in volume, but in gravity. Take your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love. Go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering. On a mountain I will show you. The command hadn't come in a storm or with thunder. It had come in stillness, clear, undeniable, not as a suggestion, not as a test, as a command, one that pierced not just his ears, but every fiber of his being. It had no explanation, no follow-up, no comfort, just do it. This was the same God who had given Isaac to him. The son promised through a covenant so profound that Abraham had laughed out loud the day he heard it. Laughed, not from doubt, but from the sheer absurdity of grace. Abraham had been 100 years old when Isaac finally arrived. Sarah, 90. That child was a living miracle, flesh and blood proof that God keeps his promises. And now, God was demanding him back. Abraham did not cry. He did not scream. He obeyed. He rose in silence and began to split wood. Deliberate mechanical movements. The crack of the axe echoed faintly through the camp, but neither Sarah nor Isaac stirred. Each log he split was part of an altar that would soon burn, not just wood, but legacy. Not just kindling, but love. When the sun broke across the sky, bathing the hills in gold, he called to Isaac. The boy came quickly, rubbing sleep from his eyes, ready to walk beside his father. He had done it many times before. He was old enough now, perhaps a teenager, to carry the wood for a sacrifice. Old enough to know the rituals. Old enough to ask the right questions, but still young enough to trust. They loaded a donkey with provisions. Abraham took 2 servants along, strong young men who would carry water and supplies, but who would not climb the final stretch of the mountain. Abraham said nothing of the purpose. Some truths are too sharp to speak aloud. They traveled for 3 days. Each step forward was a sentence in a story Abraham never wanted to tell. The land rolled out before them. Hills, dry shrubs, the occasional fig tree. Birds called overhead. The donkey plodded along steadily. Isaac, cheerful, unaware, asked his father about stars, animals, the promises of God. Abraham answered gently, lovingly, but inside he was unraveling. He thought of Isaac's birth, the way Sarah had cried when she held him, the time Isaac had learned to walk, stumbling into his father's arms, the questions he asked about the world, about Yahweh, about the strange and sacred journey their family was on. And he thought about the knife tied to his waist. On the morning of the 3rd day, Abraham looked up. In the distance he saw it, Mount Moriah. It rose like a silent sentinel, ancient and waiting. That was the place. He knew it, though he had never been there before. The mountain of decision. He turned to his servants. "Stay here with the donkey," he said, his voice steady but hollow. "The boy and I will go over there to worship, and we will come back to you." A statement of faith? A hidden hope? A lie? He didn't know anymore, but the words were out, and he couldn't take them back. Isaac helped unload the wood. Abraham took the bundle, lashed it to Isaac's back. Then he took the fire, glowing embers held in a clay pot. And the knife. The same knife he had used to slaughter lambs for sacrifice. The same knife that gleamed under the desert sun, as cold and sharp as fate. And they began the climb, side by side, father and son. They didn't speak at first, just the sound of footsteps crunching on dry rock, wind whispering between the stones. Then Isaac spoke. "Father?" Abraham turned, his throat clenched. "Yes, my son?" "The fire and the wood are here," Isaac said, glancing at the bundle on his back, then the clay pot in Abraham's hand. "But where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" The question hit like a blow, not just because of what it meant, but because of who was asking. Abraham looked into his son's eyes, so trusting, so unguarded, and said the only thing he could say without breaking, "God himself will provide the lamb, my son." They walked on. The mountain grew steeper, the air thinner, the silence between them heavier. Finally, they reached the summit. There were no voices from heaven, no signs, just stone and wind. Abraham moved slowly, built the altar with his own hands, placing the rocks one atop another in a square. He arranged the wood, dry and splintering. Everything was ready. Everything. Except the sacrifice. Then he turned to Isaac. We don't know if he spoke, if he tried to explain, if he begged forgiveness. All we know is that he bound Isaac. And Isaac let him. Did the boy struggle? Cry out? Scream? Or did he lie still, trusting his father? Even now? Abraham placed him on the altar. The same boy he had waited 100 years for, the son of promise. He raised the knife. And in that single moment, time bent. Heaven and earth held their breath. The father's hand did not tremble. He had made peace with what had to be done. He would obey, even if it shattered him. And then, a voice, "Abraham! Abraham!" He stopped, frozen in place, knife inches from flesh, breath caught in his throat. "Here I am," he whispered. "Do not lay a hand on the boy," the voice said. "Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." The knife dropped. It hit the rocks with a clatter that echoed for eternity. Tears streamed down Abraham's face. Relief and sorrow and awe mingled into something too big for words. Then he heard a rustle in the bushes. A ram, caught by its horns in a thicket. God had provided. Not in the way Abraham expected. Not in the moment he hoped for. But exactly when it mattered most. He sacrificed the ram in place of his son, and named the place Yahweh Yireh. The Lord will provide. But the story doesn't end there. Abraham and Isaac walked back down the mountain. The scriptures don't tell us what passed between them. Whether they spoke, whether Isaac looked at his father with confusion, fear, or understanding. What we do know is this: faith is not clean, obedience is not painless, and trust, real trust, requires surrender so deep it feels like death. Centuries later, that same mountain would bear witness to another father, another son, another sacrifice, but this time, there would be no ram. Thank you for listening to Divine Crime. Subscribe for more true stories from the most dangerous book ever written.